Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be doing kind of a rapid-fire deep dive. For those of you who are already pretty deep in the AI and robotics world, this one should be right up your alley.
Yeah, that's right.
We're going to be looking at a company called Physical Intelligence.
Go by Pi.
Pi. Very clever.
Yeah.
And their work in integrating AI into actual physical robots.
Into the real world.
Yeah. So not just software, not just, theory and research, but really trying to get this stuff out there. We've got some company info to cover, and we've got a couple of their research publications to unpack as well.
Yeah, this is some exciting stuff, I think, for anyone who's really deep in the AI and robotics world, because as you said, they're really aiming for nothing less than bringing general purpose AI out of the software realm and into the real world.
It's a challenge that a lot of people have tackled, and really nobody has quite cracked yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But Pi seems to be, they seem to be on the right track here. And they've got some serious backing. They just closed a $400 million funding round with investors like Jeff Bezos, OpenAI itself, Thrive Capital, and Lux Capital.
Wow.
Yeah, so that puts their valuation at $2 billion.
So clearly people are paying attention.
Yeah, they're turning some heads here.
Yeah, and I think that attention is very well deserved. What makes Pi really stand out is their AI model, Pi Zero.
Pi Zero.
Which they're designing to be sort of a general-purpose robot brain.
Mm.
And, this isn't about just, programming a robot to, do one specific task or one, very narrow thing. It's about training it on a massive scale so that it can handle a variety of tasks in a real-world environment.
So instead of having a robot that only folds laundry,
right,
you'd have one that could unload the dryer, fold the clothes, and then put them away.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the dream.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
They're really trying to achieve in the physical world what we've seen with these large language models like ChatGPT. In the digital world, it's a very ambitious goal.
Hugely ambitious.
Yeah. And to get there, they're not just building a company, they're also publishing some really interesting research.
Yeah, one of these research projects is called HiRobot.
I love that name.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It immediately grabbed my attention. It's about making robots more flexible and more intelligent.
Right.
And they're doing that by applying this concept of two-level thinking.
Yeah. And, they drew an analogy to how we as humans think. System one thinking is that fast instinctive.
Like a reflex.
Yeah, exactly. Like a reflex. And then you have system two, which is slower and more deliberate.
Planning your next chess move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So HiRobot is designed to be able to do both.
Okay, now hold on. How can a robot have two systems of thought? Does it literally have two brains or something?
Well, not quite two brains, but it does have these two distinct levels of processing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're using two vision language models, or VLMs. One is handling this high-level strategizing. So that's kind of like the system two, breaking down complex tasks into those simpler steps. And then the other VLM, which is their Pi Zero model, is acting as the system one, actually executing those steps and interacting with the physical world.
Okay.
And so the high-level model is actually, giving commands to that lower-level model to actually get things done.
It's like whispering instructions to it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so one part of the robot brain is saying, okay, here's the overall goal. Let's break this down into steps.
Yeah.
And the other part is saying, got it. I'm going to move the arm here, grasp this, and then place it there.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that ability to break down those tasks and adjust on the fly is what's letting HiRobot handle those, those more complex situations.
Well.
And it can even respond to that real-time feedback. So let's say, it's cleaning a table and the user says, wait, that's not trash.
Right.
HiRobot can actually understand what that refers to visually.
Visually.
Reassess the situation and change its action.
That's wild.
It is. It's impressive stuff.
Okay, so that's definitely more sophisticated than your average, Roomba running around.
For sure.
But there's tons of VLMs out there. What's so special about the ones that they're using here with HiRobot?
Well, what's really fascinating here is that both the high-level, strategic model and that lower-level execution model are actually built on the same VLM foundation. So they're both drawing on this same vast knowledge base.
Interesting. So why is that two-level approach built on the same VLM so significant? Why is that so important?
Well, you have to understand the power of these web-scale pre-trained VLMs. I mean, they've been trained on such a massive amount of data that they're incredibly good at problem solving, especially when they can, break down a complex task into those simpler steps.
So it's not just about having the two levels of processing. It's about having those two levels be able to seamlessly communicate and share knowledge because they're built on the same foundation.
Exactly. And this is where we really start to see how HiRobot could be a real leap forward. It's not just following pre-programmed instructions. It's actually able to think about a problem, draw on its vast knowledge, and come up with a solution.
That's a big claim. That's a huge claim.
Okay.
How do you go from this idea of two-level thinking to a robot that can actually function in the real world?
And that's what Physical Intelligence's research set out to do.
Okay.
And that's what we'll dig into next.
Okay, so they've got this intriguing two-level VLM setup. How did they actually train robot to do, real-world tasks?
So they use a combination of real-world demonstrations with a robot and get this synthetic data.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they actually created, tons of simulated scenarios to train that high-level VLM, exposing it to this huge range of potential situations and instructions without having to physically act all of those out.
So like a virtual boot camp for robot brains.
Exactly.
Just giving it a crash course in every possible, problem that it might encounter out there.
Exactly. And to really test high robot's capabilities, they pitted it against not just a basic VLA model, which is essentially a one-level system, but also a system using GPT-4 for that high-level reasoning.
Whoa, hold on, GPT-4. The one that's been making headlines for writing code and composing poetry and, taking over the world.
Yeah.
That's a tough benchmark.
It is a tough benchmark, yeah. But the results are pretty compelling.
Right.
Across a range of tasks, from bussing tables to making sandwiches to even, navigating a grocery store, HiRobot significantly outperformed both the flat VLA and the GPT-4 system.
Okay, color me impressed.
Yeah.
Beating GPT-4 is no small feat.
Sure.
So this two-level thinking with that shared VLM foundation, it's actually making a measurable difference.
It is.
But is this just a research project? Or is Physical Intelligence actually building robots using this technology?
They're not just theorizing, they're putting it into practice. HiRobot has been successfully implemented on several different robot platforms. So this isn't just simulation, this is in the real world.
Wow. When we talk about AI, it's easy to get caught up in the theoretical side of things.
Right.
But to see it actually implemented in robots that can perform complex tasks in the real world,
Right.
That's when it really hits home.
It is, and it raises some, important questions. Like, if this two-level approach is so effective, where could this lead? What are the possibilities and maybe even the potential challenges of bringing robots with this level of capability into our daily lives?
That's the big question, isn't it? We've seen what AI can do with language.
Yeah.
Now imagine that power in a machine that can actually move and interact with the physical world.
Right.
It's exciting, but it also, makes you think.
It does, and that's where this deep dive gets really interesting.
Yeah, it really does make you think.
Yeah.
We started by talking about, how Pi wants to bring general-purpose AI into the real world. And HiRobot, with its two-level thinking and real-world capabilities, that seems like a pretty major step in that direction.
Oh, it is. We're moving beyond the idea of robots as just these tools that follow instructions, HiRobot's showing us that they can be so much more than that. They can be problem solvers. They can learn and adapt. They can even interact with us in a more intuitive way.
It's like that line is blurring between, science fiction and reality.
Absolutely.
And that brings up some pretty huge questions.
Yeah.
If we can have robots that are this capable, how do we integrate them into our lives responsibly?
That's the key question. And it's one that I think we as a society need to start thinking about very seriously. What are the ethical implications? How do we ensure that these systems are safe and reliable? And how do we even begin to prepare for the potential impact on, the workforce? These are all conversations that we need to be having.
Absolutely. This isn't just about the cool technology. It's about what that technology means for us as humans.
Exactly. And that's what I find so fascinating about this field. It's not just about pushing the boundaries of what's technically possible. It's about exploring this intersection of, technology and humanity.
Well said. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from Pi's ambitious goals to HiRobot's, very impressive capabilities. And it seems like we're just scratching the surface of what might be possible.
Oh, we are. And as this technology continues to evolve, it's going to be fascinating to see where it all leads us.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our rapid-fire deep dive. We unpacked some pretty dense research, but hopefully you've come away with at least a couple new insights, and more importantly, some new questions to ponder.
I think, as always, the best deep dives leave you with more to think about.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of cutting-edge research and ideas.